Hello, and welcome to Mystic Dog Mama, the podcast for soul led dog mamas, where you'll discover how to best nourish your dog and yourself, mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Dr. Alexia Meller. Hello, everybody. How are you? I hope you're doing well, and I hope that you kind of survived this full moon lunar eclipse energy. I don't know if you guys are particularly sensitive to it, but I definitely am. And I am a Virgo with a Pisces moon. So I feel like this one always hits kind of hard. But in a good way, in a good way. And that's a bit what I wanted to talk to you about today. Um, I'm going through some things on a personal level that is reflective of the collective level. But the reason I wanted to share a bit with you is because I was guided to, yeah, just sort of share some of the wisdom that has come up for me uh, fairly recently that's been really helpful for navigating the changes that we're going through, again, at a collective level that then translates into us experiencing it at an individual level. So I wanted to share with you in case it was helpful for you, because normally I don't really share the stuff that I'm going through in the midst of it. I always find it more helpful, like once I've been able to process stuff and I've gained the wisdom on the other side to then talk to other people about it, to share stuff with you. Um, Once I've had a little bit of reflection time and can better speak about what it is that I've experienced in hopes that it helps you. But actually, what I'm going through at the moment, apologies, there's a car. What I'm going through at the moment, in what I'm experiencing right now, I actually think would be really helpful to share with you, because I imagine quite a few of us are going through just transitions and changes, and that can bring a lot of complex feelings. Um, yeah, just dealing with uncertainty. And again, we can apply this to how we're relating with our dogs, but it's how we're relating to just sort of life in general. So the thing that I wanted to talk to you about is a concept that I came across through the channeler Bashar. And I'm sure this exists in other kind of contexts, but this is the context that I heard it through. And if you're not familiar with Bashar, Bashar is a consciousness, a being that is channeled through Daryl Anka and has been for like the past 40 years or so. And I was listening to slash watching, it was while I was doing something else. So listening to the video where he often holds kind of workshops with people that then are recorded. So there's an audience and he's taking questions and answers. And he was responding to a question from an audience member that was about, why do I keep experiencing the same thing over and over? I feel like I've learned this lesson. Why do I keep repeating it? Why is it Groundhog Day? When am I going to get over this? When is this going to stop? Kind of thing. And Bashar's answer to it was so interesting and has been so helpful for me, which is why I want to share it with you, because it's something that stuck with me. And then as I've been going through different things that are reminiscent of this, it has given me such a helpful tool for navigating it. So that's why I'm sharing it with you today. So the concept he referred to is the echo. And what he was saying is that it's not that you're actually creating the same situation over and over and over again. It's not actually Groundhog Day. It might look and feel like that on the surface, but that's not actually what's happening. That, for one, we're never in the same place that we were in. And so even if something looks similar, it's never exactly the same. But what was really helpful with the concept of the echo is that he said, your higher consciousness, the part of you that is connected to all that is the great one mind, or that is much more aware, is able to step back from the specifics of the individual personality self and the lived experience, and can see that everything is kind of happening for a bigger reason, that there is a bigger stage, in a sense, that's here, and this is the play that's taking place on it. But he was saying that that part of ourselves is creating this echo as a way of allowing ourselves, facilitating the opportunity, the gift for us to demonstrate to ourselves that we have indeed changed, that we have evolved, that we are the new versions of ourselves by responding differently to the things that normally trigger us. So that's why you will bring something up seemingly from your past, or like this a pattern. So it's a familiar pattern, familiar situations. You bring it back up so that you can demonstrate to yourself that you are different through taking different actions, through responding differently. And specifically, what I take from that in the responding differently is kind of more aligned with some of the language from A Course in Miracles. I talk about quite often that that text has been really impactful to me in terms of the way that I'm thinking about myself in relationship to the life experiences that I have. But one of the things that's really been helpful from A Course in Miracles is that everything is a choice point between love and fear. That's basically it. We're either making a decision from a place of love, or we're making a decision from a place of fear. We're responding to something from a place of love, or we're reacting from a place of fear. And having that kind of awareness of how we respond, that's how I'm applying it to the echo, that the echo is asking me, asking all of us, but using me as an example, can I respond from a place of love to this thing that would normally incite fear within me? And so, what does a loving response look like? There is no one way that it looks, right? It's more about the intention, the energy that's behind whatever decision that you're making. It's not actually about the decision itself. It's not necessarily about the reaction itself. It's what's motivating that decision or that action. So a good example of where this came up for me and where I kind of was really aware of the echo for the first time since listening to this was I recently was doing some traveling, and I had one of the typical travel experiences where you are faced with a bunch of delays in your flights. And normally that would just really frustrate me and annoy me. And particularly because of the timings of the flights, it meant that I was going to be arriving at my destination like super late. I risked the night desk being shut at the hotel that I was going to be staying at. And that would have incited a fear of like, oh my God, what if I don't get there on time? Where am I going to sleep? What's going to happen? And then you can feel that anxiety kind of building, right? As soon as I realized that when I heard the announcement that our flight was significantly delayed, I just had this click go on. I was like, this is the echo. And that the gift of that was that I had that experience that if you've ever had a lucid dream where you're in a dream and you suddenly realize, "Oh, I'm dreaming. This is a dream." Your relationship to that dream, to what right before that moment felt very real to you, felt like you were really in it, all of a sudden you become like, the analogy is often used of like the video game and the avatar. You realize like, oh my God, I'm not the one in this particular situation. I'm the one that's kind of driving this situation. Ooh, what do I want to do now with it? How can I be playful with it? How can I choose something differently? There's a sense of freedom and empowerment that comes, at least in my experience of a lucid dream, where it's like, oh wow, I get to do things differently. That is the exact feeling that I had when I realized, oh my God, this is the echo. This is the echo. So, one, I wasn't personalizing things, and I wasn't feeling a victim of the circumstances at all. That's not to say that I was denying the emotions that were coming up. And that's the other part of this is actually not using the echo to bypass experiences, but using the echo to broaden our understanding of these experiences so that we can more fully integrate them. Because it's definitely my belief, my feeling that healing is not about getting rid of or getting over the pains in our life. It's actually about fully integrating all aspects of ourselves. That means welcoming in all the different feelings that we have, the really happy feelings, the really difficult feelings, the griefs that we have through our life, welcoming them into our lives, sitting at our table with us, as Beth Bigler of Honoring Our Animals recently talked about in terms of grief, and in particular, pet loss grief, that we're going to be having these experiences for as long as we are here in the human experience. Using grief as an example, that's a lifelong thing. And when we've lost somebody that we love, that feeling of that kind of sadness or that grief doesn't actually go away. It might transform over time, but it's still part of our experiences. So it's not about getting rid of or getting over or spiritually bypassing, if you're into that kind of a language. It's welcoming it in, but having a different relationship to it. So this is what was happening with me in this particular situation that catalyzed the understanding of the echo for me, that I was still experiencing the frustration. I did experience worry about, oh my God, what is going to happen with the hotel? But so I called the hotel and let them know that I was going to be late. And I was like, it's going to be fine. I will be held through this whole experience. And where I saw other people kind of freaking out about all this and getting annoyed and frustrated, I was actually in that state of the peace of God that A Course in Miracles talks about, that I have experienced before, but I've not necessarily been so conscious of experiencing it and of cultivating it. And again, in that lucid dream perspective, or in that lucid dream analogy, like really being aware of it in the moment of it. And as a result, it was like the airline brought food in for people, which they didn't have to because the delays were due to weather, and the flight was actually really smooth. All of the stuff through the airports was really smooth. I ended up getting a taxi fairly easily to get to the hotel, and actually I got to share it with somebody who was having trouble with a taxi and didn't speak a lot of English and needed some support with that. And so the whole experience was actually like really smooth and really nice. And I was able to see how worrying about stuff would have totally robbed me of that present moment. So I was really grateful for having that understanding of the echo. And I'm having more experiences right now. I mean, this whole like lunar eclipse energy has really hit me in a way. And I think a big part of it for me is also linked to me having a Virgo sun and a Pisces moon. And I was actually born on the full moon. So I often feel the intensity of this particular transit, this particular time of year, and then you add an eclipse to it, and it's like super highlighted. But I am really of the belief that eclipses take things out of our lives that are no longer serving us in order to make space for the new and the higher and the better to come in. But that doesn't take away the discomfort of the actual experience of that transition. So I'm experiencing the discomfort. I'm just not getting stuck in it. And I'm seeing that in many respects, what's happening for me right now is a sort of collision of many of my worst fears coming together all at once, and all the what ifs that I've had in my life. What if this happens? What if this happens? How am I going to do this? Da-da-da, 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 that would have paralyzed me at one point. And what has happened with the gift of the concept of the echo is that I'm in a totally different relationship with everything that's going on. And I'm actually seeing it as a gift, like truly seeing it as a gift, because what's happening is all of these things are happening at once, which is actually kind of convenient because it means that I get to heal that. I'm healing my relationship to all of that at once, which is great, so that I can move through it and move into the more expanded version of myself. And again, I'm sort of experiencing it in two ways, where I am fully embodied in the experience of what's going on and all the emotions and all the fears that crop up. And I'm also seeing that I'm kind of the avatar in the video game right now, and I can choose to like fully embed myself in that experience of being frightened or uncomfortable or what have you. Or I can see like, I'm just moving through this. This is just a game. How can I be in a different relationship with it? How can I take loving actions all the time? And that loving action might be, this is a little bit overwhelming right now. So I need to stop what I'm doing and I need to go and like have a cup of tea and chill out for a little bit. Or that loving action might be like, I need to just be with Lucky for a little while and chill out with him. Or that loving action might be, I need to come on and do a little mini episode, because in me doing this for you, it's also healing me. And it feels really wonderful to also be able to give something of the difficult experiences that I'm going through in hopes that it helps you to navigate whatever you're going through as well. So that loving action can look different, right? Like it appears in different ways. And I'm very conscious of not making a decision out of fear, not making a knee jerk reaction, not telling myself stories of like all that could go wrong, all of that kind of stuff, or making meanings that are of things. Because I was recently having a conversation with the astrologer Suzanne Gerber, and that episode is going to come out in a few weeks. But we were talking about how everything is actually neutral. What's important and what dictates our experience of things is the meaning that we're assigning to anything. What we're making that thing, the thing that happened, the thing that somebody said, the experience that we're having in our 3D, what we are making that mean about ourselves, about our futures, about our pasts, about what's possible, all of that. It's the meaning that then dictates how we are feeling about it and how we are taking action in the world in response to that or in reaction to that. So I'm just being very conscious, so aware and present, which is the gift. Like, this is what we're all aiming for, right? Is to be as present as possible and to be as in the moment, truly in the moment, experiencing everything in the moment as possible. That is happening for me as a result of understanding the echo and then saying, so what meaning am I choosing to apply to any of this? That's going to change my experience. So I can choose to make whatever is happening, anything happening, right? Like, you spill your coffee. How many times have you had an experience like this? Like, you spill your coffee or something, you're like, oh my God, it's going to be a terrible day. Or it could be a really great day. What meaning do you want to apply to that action? Because the thing of the coffee spilling in and of itself is totally neutral. It is not a determining factor of who you are and your worth and your value and what kind of an experience you're going to have in your day. We assign that meaning to it. So I just wanted to kind of share some of this because it is my hope that either if you're in an experience right now that's a little bit difficult, that perhaps you're catching that, oh, this could be the echo. And in catching it, you can have a different relationship with it, and that you can take control of that situation and how you're feeling about it and how you're navigating it. And that, I'm hoping, will give you more peace as you work through it and integrate it and learn from it, gather the wisdom that's in each and every experience that we're having, so that you can become a more expanded version of yourself on the other side. If you're not going through a difficult time at the moment, I hope that this plants the seed so that if and when you do go through a difficult time, you suddenly have this little ding moment, like I had when I was sitting in the airport with a really delayed flight. And that in that moment, you have that sense of, like I was describing, being in a lucid dream. Like, I'm in the echo. How do I want to respond differently to it? So I'd love to hear, are you going through something challenging right now? And have you heard of the concept of the echo? Is this a new thing for you? Are you really familiar with it? I'd love to hear what your experience is of that. Or if you find that this is helpful, I'd love to hear how you've used it to navigate through things. And yeah, I'd love to hear. So either send me a message on Instagram at Mystic Dog Mama, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment below. You can also leave a comment on Spotify and let me know. And I am working on I actually was going to do an episode on your questions around nutrition. I had posted on Instagram asking what questions you have about feeding your dog fresh food. My plan was initially just to do an episode on that, responding to the questions, but I got some really great questions. And what I'd actually like to do is do a bit more of a series and dive into something so that it'll be a little bit more in depth, and going through different aspects of nutrition. So I am working on that. That is coming out. But again, if you have more questions on how to feed your dog, or concerns, or anything to do with fresh feeding, if you're interested in food energetics and you want to know a little bit more about that, or how I bring the nutrition, the energetics, and the wellness together, the well-being together in the new approach, let me know and I'll make sure to answer them in the upcoming series. All right, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting with you next time. Take care. Bye.